ready for this first individual battle to commence. 3 laps, just inside 6K. This could be an absolute cracker.
On your marks!
Paula Radcliffe announces the start, and the junior women's race in 2019 is underway. The Ethiopian flags are fluttering. They're still buoyed after that wonderful victory in the mixed relay. Maybe one of the favourites here, Beatrice Chebet, won the National Cross Country Championships for Kenya. Gold in the World Junior 5000 last year. But it's Jackline Rotich who leads, 3rd in the Kenyan National Championship. She's out front, over 100 runners, 28 countries represented. And Tim, if the relay tells us anything, that hill on the museum could be even more important than we thought it would when we walked the course a couple of days ago.
Well, and we saw each of the relay runners negotiating that hill just once, Rob. Imagine if somebody is strong on that hill each time they do it. In this race, 3 times, in the senior races, 5 times. Lovely shot of the young ladies there negotiating the first slope. It's about 300, 330 metres to the top of the hill. It looks much longer when you stand at the top and look down. But as soon as they get to the top here, they take a sharp left and then a right and head through that Mikkola cheering zone, as I like to call it. That's a big marquee. And as they go into the marquee, they're at the 400-metre point.
Tariku up in that group, 2nd in the Ethiopian National Championships. And the Ugandans have got very, very good squads. I know they would be a little disappointed with their performance in the mixed relay. They've got some very good mountain runners, Tim. And I know 150 metres up the side of a museum isn't a mountain, but I just wonder, it'll probably feel like it on the 3rd lap, I just wonder whether that mountain running experience that we've got in so many of the Ugandan athletes might play a part today.
Well, that's just one of the question marks or questions that needs to be answered here, Rob. The other, of course, is the Ethiopians. Their team very, very strong here. All their athletes finished within 8 seconds of each other at their championships a few weeks back. They've got a really, really strong squad. And we are guaranteed a new champion. Don't forget that the Ethiopian Gide won in 2015 and 2017. She takes part in the senior race today. So we are guaranteed a new junior women's champion.
And whilst we've been talking about cross-country, perhaps struggling for traction in a busy annual calendar, how fantastic to see so much strength and depth from the Australian teams. Such a long journey, and yet they have committed to sending great squads here. Most notably, their senior men's team, absolutely superb, although they're a bit rocked by McSween having to pull out. But brilliant that the Australians have committed to World Cross in the manner in which they have this year.
And that's just one of the ironies of the racing today. Look at the teams that have come from Japan, Canada, USA, Australia, New Zealand. You know, there's been great commitment from right around the globe. And it does sadden me, and I won't mention this again, that there are quite a few European nations who haven't thrown their lot into this. You know, it's a 1-hour flight for a lot of those nations. It's really close to them. I don't understand the attitude. You know, if you're not in, you can't win. And if you don't give kids and youngsters and established athletes ambitions and championships to target, then how on earth are you going to take your teams, your squads forward and see any improvement?
So a lovely sight. The field still fairly nicely bunched at the beginning. And maybe this is indicative, Tim, of the fact that these young women are treating this course with quite a lot of respect on this first circuit.
Yeah, I think this might be the nature of most of the races, Rob, where they've got to run several laps from now on. The first circuit will be taken with a degree of caution, and then somebody will lose patience, one of the favourites up at the front, and kick on hard and really test them. Good to see one of the young Australians there at the front of the field, just trying to see who that is. And she's right up there with the Ugandans, and Kenyan vest very much to the fore. Kazama from Japan there to the right of picture, also looking comfortable. Trapp from France, and that may be because they are all being ultra cautious in this opening circuit.
You've mentioned about the Australians. We've been talking them up. It's Sarah Schiffman at the front for them. She won the trials at the age of 15. Her 16th birthday is not until November this year. And she's right at the front of that field, along with the French woman you mentioned, Trapp. She's the national junior cross-country champion. So fantastic to see the Australians and the French in amongst the mix. And good packing by the Ugandans. One or two just clashed with each other there, just on the right-hand side, running up that relatively gentle incline, as opposed to some of the other hills they have to negotiate. But good running at the front by the Australian and the Frenchwoman. Still a massive, massive pack together, though.
But that last shot, a really good indication, Rob, of just how tough the hills are. The sweep down, steep sweep down to the water, and then a severe climb up out of it. And it's hard to train for this sort of thing. Most of these athletes should be incorporating hill training into their winter programs anyway, but it's just the bang, bang, bang nature. It's the unforgiving nature of the way this course keeps hitting you. Lovely shot there of athletes going through the mud. It's getting all over our camera lens, but that makes it all the more real. But it's tough to train for something like this unless you specifically design yourself a training circuit where you're up and down in quick succession.
Well, there's no right or wrong going through a section like that. Your instinct tells you always go to the left or right, because you might get a little bit of solid ground, but I don't think there's anything solid about the mud
There
pit.
isn't, and the hay bales trap them into the water section, trap them into the mud section. But when I run cross countries, muddy sections like that, if you could see it coming, I would always accelerate into it. Take yourself through it so it doesn't suck you into a slower tempo or take any of your momentum away. Everybody adopts different tactics, but that was mine.
You really don't get a genuine sense of just how steep the hill is up the side of the museum. Perhaps this angle, as the camera turns, is maybe the best one, but it really is a brutal, brutal climb. First of 3 for these young women.
That's a really nasty corner too there, as they sweep right up onto the roof. The camber slips away to their left. Now, this is where we may see them getting sorted out, Rob. The cream rising to the top as they rise up this slope.
Yes, the junior men and women turn left at an earlier section. The senior men and women have to go another 50 or 60 metres up that incline. And we've got some good work by the Ugandans. Tariku in second place there, who was second in the national champs for Ethiopia. But Sarah Chelangat, she got a Youth Olympic gold last year in Buenos Aires. I was there covering the event. It was a bit of an experiment. The gold was decided by a mixture of your steeplechase performance and your cross-country. So she took the Youth Olympic title. She was 4th in the World Juniors last year, Chelangat, over 5,000 metres. She's a classy athlete and she leads, but there's still many, many of the hotly fancied characters here still very much in touch. Grace Brock was just going through shot there for Great Britain, 11th in the European Juniors last year, but it's Chelangat, the steeplechaser, leading at the moment from Tariku. Rotich still up there, 3rd in the Kenyan champs. Beatrice Chebet just behind Chelangat, 2nd from the right-hand side as we look at it. Cross-country champion in their trials and a gold medalist in the World Juniors last year over 5,000 metres. It's a classy field, this, Tim, for their age.
It is a very classy field, and of course this is what we've come to expect from the East Africans, is that 17, 18, 19, so many of their athletes are reaching world-class level already on the track and in road racing. Interesting, though, Rob, for me, that, and significant, that just as they came towards the end of that first lap, having sort of got the map in their heads of how to negotiate the twists and turns and ups and downs, the East Africans just began to move away from the rest. You've got Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia, almost exclusively making up that lead group of about 15 or 17 athletes.
Yes, I'm just looking there. There isn't a single athlete from outside those two countries, and they're the two Japanese packing well. But they're running in no man's land. A look a little bit further back down the field. Nielsen of the USA, she was 6th in their champs. Ridgen was 3rd. Two of the Japanese athletes running very aggressively. They've moved ahead of Mercy Cherub, who was 8th in their trials. Then comes the best of the rest. And if the Japanese carry on as they are, they've got a chance of another team medal. And remember, they've been on the podium 18 times. the team titles have always gone to Kenya and Ethiopia, but Japan, with 3 silvers and 15 bronze, have always been there or thereabouts, and maybe it'll be close between them and the likes of perhaps Uganda, who only have 1 representative in this group, but it is the classy Sarah Chelangat, the youth Olympic champion from Argentina last year. But Japan definitely in the mix for the team medal at this stage.
All 6 Ethiopians in that leading group, Rob, of what, about 12 athletes? There is the club zone, as they call it, where you can see that little village of marquees. That's one of the highest points on the course. They sweep right there and then drop down once again pretty quickly. There is no respite on this circuit. That's what makes this course unique for me. There's no section where you're running on the flat, you can get a bit of a breather and get into a nice equilibrium. Almost every metre of this course, you're coping with an uphill climb or a descent, and that makes it doubly challenging.
The 2 Japanese athletes beginning to close down on that big lead group. Good running by both of them, actually. Jerup is the other athlete in kind of no man's land, if you like. Maybe the 2 Japanese catching is indicative that they've slowed just a fraction, maybe psychologically now realising just how tough that hill is up the museum. But what would your tactics be here, Tim? Chelangat is taking this on. She's not making a bold bid to accelerate off the front. From her point of view, would it be better to be sitting in the pack and conserving a little bit of energy?
Well, I think on a course like this, Rob, with so many variations in the twists and the turns and the ups and the downs, it's good to get a clean look at what's coming at you. It's a bit like a steeplechase. You know, you want to have a good sight of the barriers. Here, I would prefer to see the corners and prefer to see the climbs as they come at me, not to mention the water and the mud and the sand obstacles. So, no, I'd prefer to be at the front. I don't see a great deal of benefit in being in the middle of the pack here. And also, if you're at the front and you're running at your optimum pace and nobody's coming past you, you do get that sort of reinforcement information. Something's telling you, well, nobody's coming past me, so I'm running at a good tempo here. If they were that comfortable, they'd come past me. So you can turn it into positives. And yeah, I used to like to lead generally.
A real acceleration up that incline as the athletes turn to their left, and those leading are shortly going to squelch their way through the mud pit, and I'm pretty sure our cameraman will have cleaned off his lens, so he might have to take it for a bit of a hose down by the end of today. Oh, and Chelangat just had her heels clipped there, Tim. Something of nothing, but they do need to be careful. And look, Chelangat going all the way over to the right-hand side, her right, our left, as we looked at it there. The 2 Japanese athletes still trying to close the gap. It's getting stickier there, isn't it?
It is, but the Japanese are running, as you say, supremely well. They're, what, about 40 metres down? If anything, they're closing on that lead group. Here comes the 3rd, the main pack, in effect. Quite a long way back. But 1 or 2 of these athletes are labouring through that mud section. It's only about 10 or 15 metres long, but they are labouring it through it.
Really good team performance by the Japanese. Remember, it's only the 1 lone Ugandan leader, Chelangat, who's up in this huge group of Ethiopians and Kenyans. I think the Japanese are in the mix. Grace Brock's having a good run. She hit the headlines in Great Britain with a fast 10K last year. She won the inter-counties, so she's trying to close down that gap up to the 2 Japanese who are chasing this big group of leaders, and Chelangat confidently negotiating that tricky camber, and now they attack this hill for the 2nd time.
Yeah, will they make this one count even more? It's where they began to ease away from everybody else on the first lap, what, some 6 or 7 minutes ago. 13 minutes 25 on the clock now. And that is fantastic. The Ethiopians again leaning into that one. And I'm just beginning to wonder whether or not the Ethiopians have been doing a little bit of extra hill work. Although, ironically, Rob, the news on the wires yesterday was that the Ethiopian squad, their team management, were a little unhappy with how hilly the course is, how challenging it is. And yet their athletes seem to be coping the best so far.
You know, as an organising committee, that you've laid on a hard race when the Ethiopian delegation arrive and say, "Excuse me, sir, it's too hard." It is absolutely brutal. You competed all over the world and all over Europe. Is this the toughest course you've ever seen, or talking in absolutes, you know, a little bit unhelpful? I mean, where is it in the all-time, either as a commentator or a competitor? Where is it on the scale?
Absolutely no doubt about it. And I think everybody that's had the experience of being out here in Aarhus and has walked or jogged around the course is agreeing that it is the toughest ever. And indeed, Jakob Larsen contacted me yesterday, the organizer of the event, the head man of the Danish Federation, and said, be honest, what did you think of the course? And I said to him, it is absolutely brilliant. I said, it's almost too tough, but it's spot on. It's what cross-country should be.
Well, the organisers are really hoping that this course will prove to be a leveller and that will inspire more European nations to come and take part, because I guess, Tim, especially in these younger age groups, maybe the dominance of the East Africans has put European teams off sending full delegations.
Well, it has, and you know, the difference here is stark, isn't it? I mean, they almost look like they were running in slow motion just now up that slope, some of those athletes, and they're a couple of minutes behind the leaders. You know, the gaps are massive. Jerot there, one of the Kenyans, having not a great day, but all 6 Ethiopians were up there a couple of minutes ago. I think now gaps are beginning to develop, and what, we're 1.5 laps in, Rob, and I think they're just beginning to turn the screw.
And what's very interesting here, Tim, is that when you look at the makeup of this lead group, it tells you far more Ethiopians have survived that second hill than Kenyans. We do still have a couple of Kenyans in that group, but they number only 2, where if you count the Ethiopians, you have 5 still in contention. If they haven't been doing specific hill work, whatever they have been doing in training has paid off. This is good work from the Ethiopians in this early stage of our live afternoon of coverage here in Aarhus.
And of course, the gaps are beginning to appear now, Rob, and I was getting behind myself just now. I said 1.5 laps gone. They're approaching 2.5 laps gone. This is the final lap, and that's why people are beginning to work a little bit harder at the front there and making every metre tell. We're down to 6 almost, effectively.
Sarah Chelangat is the lone Ugandan at the front. We have Chebet, Kenya's national cross-country champion. She's still right up there. So too Betty Kibet, who was just off the podium in the World Junior Steeplechase last year. And Chelangat is stretching them here. This is a confident piece of front running by the Ugandan woman. This would be a wonderful story if she's able to get the better of her 2 East African distance running rivals. Ugandans are beginning to make good strides in global distance running and cross country, and this really would be a wonderful victory, but there's a long way to go, and she still has some classy Ethiopians and Kenyans to contend with here.
Well, she's giving a good account of herself, isn't she, considering she's outnumbered. But interesting, Rob, when she won that Youth Olympic 3,000 metres last summer, it was combined with a cross-country event, a unique experiment by the IOC, and I think it worked really well. So she's clearly very strong and comfortable, whether on track or on the country. Never broken 9 minutes for 3,000 metres, but track times become a sort of blurred relevance when you look at a circuit like this, because this is unique. The demands it make are so different to any other cross-country race, or indeed road or a track race. 6 away. And each of these obstacles, each of these little upslopes and downslopes becomes more and more significant now. The significance is exaggerated as they've got to get their tactics right, Rob. Probably a couple of minutes of hard running to come.
Yes, it's Tariku trying to get on the shoulder of Chelangat. But look at Beatrice Chebet right in the middle now. And Kibet, the other Kenyan, begins to fall by the wayside. So we have Gebreselama of Ethiopia, Gebrezihair of Ethiopia, so too Tariku, up against Chelangat. The other 2 Ethiopians have dropped off the back. So 3 Ethiopians, 1 Kenyan, 1 Ugandan, and one by one they have just found this brutal course too much to cope with. Huge gap back from about 7th to 8th for the best of the rest, and we would not normally see a junior women's field this spread out with half a lap to go or so.
Well, Ethiopia 2 years ago, Rob, took 1-2, but in the team race, they defeated Kenya with 19 points to the Kenyans' 20. And they might well have the victory coming at them again here, a successful defence. Gebreselama looking very much up for it. They're the tallest in this group for Ethiopia.
Chebet trying to lead here for Kenya, and Chelangat for the first time, the Ugandan, coming under pressure. But watch for the three tall figures from Ethiopia. 5 into 3 doesn't go. How much of an impact will this hill make? And look at Gebreselama. She's going for it now alongside Tariku.
Pumping with the arms. This is where it becomes really important. The conditioning work, not the running, the gym work, the weights, the circuits, conditioning, driving up that hill will become more and more significant as these distances get longer. The senior races to come with 5 laps, remember. That was a really, really big move there from Tariku, and Gebreselama back in 3rd place. Chebet, though, the sole Kenyan. Can she get this gold?
Kenya from Ethiopia. The Ugandan long-term leader, Sarah Chelangat, is going to have to find something here in the closing stages. Gebreselama still in the mix, so too Gebrezihair. This is close. When they turn to their left, there'll only be 140 metres or so of running to go. Tariku, second in the Ethiopian champs. Beatrice Chebet, who took the title for Kenya. A sprint to the line. The Kenyan has it at the moment, but the 2 Ethiopians are coming. So too Gebreselama. And Chebet holds on just, wow. Or Tariku on the right-hand side. I thought Chebet may have hung on, but Tariku has come through on the line. Chebet outdipped. They've given it to Tariku, Gebreselama, and Chebet, who was inches away from taking the title, has to settle for 3rd. Long-term leader Chelangat finishes out of the medals in 4th. Wow, 1 second covering the first 4. A tighter finish you will not see.
Fabulous stuff, and Ethiopia getting the 1-2 again. And unofficially, they're taking the team race, Rob, with 1, 2, 5 and 7. Fabulous packing from the Ethiopians. Not a lot of room for errors with a 100-metre finishing straight. They take that corner, and it's bearing down on them. But the East African dominance, again, underlined in dramatic style with that result.
What a finish. Here, Chebet thinks she's done it. She puts her arms up. Watch for Tariku to her right-hand side. Oh, well, I actually thought angle. Chebet's chest was the first of the 3 to hit that tape. Maybe they've gone a little bit early awarding it to Tariku. That looked tight to me, Tim.
It was misleading. All 3 of them got their arms aloft and celebrating, just getting a medal, I think, 5 metres out from the tape. But, yeah, Tariku's been given it.
Tariku and Gebreselama are the ones celebrating. Watch Chebet, whose chest pushes the tape first. I think it might be the lady in the middle. We're watching closely. It is. So, I'm still reading on the official results that Tariku has been given it, but to my naked eye, it was Chebet who first touched the tape. It was certainly close, Tim.
Well, really close. I mean, they're putting on the official result that's coming up on our computers, they're giving Chebet 1 second down, which is about 5 or 6 metres the speed they're moving at. It wasn't 5 or 6 millimetres, never mind about metres.
Well, we will await confirmation, but at the moment, it is gold and silver for Tariku Gebreselama, and Beatrice Chebet, the national champion from Kenya, has been given the bronze medal.
Well, that winning time, 20:50, was 2.5 minutes ago now. As you can see, lots of athletes just coming down the home straight there. What, 2.5 minutes down, 3.5 minutes down now.
The field's so spread out now, and the slow nature of these women making their way to the finish tells you just how much this course has taken out of them. And we're talking about really, really good level young men and women in these junior races, and they have been reduced to a jog by this course. This is absolutely brutal.
and we expect this to happen. But the supremely fit athletes, of course, Rob, are coping with it okay, and there's great racing at the front. But legs going from under one of the Americans there, is that? Yeah, Clement. You'd think she'd run a marathon. That's the effect it's had on them. But of course, if you think back 2 years to Uganda, Rob, there were some very, very distressing scenes at the end of the junior women's race because of the heat and the humidity and the altitude. For different reasons here, some of the young ladies struggling.
Yeah, we just got a glimpse of Claremont. She's the national junior cross-country champion, so she's a class act. That is a brutal, brutal course. Just less than 6K, and some of these young athletes are having to be helped away from the finish line. The hardest course makes for fascinating viewing for us, but it makes for a very, very tiring 6K for these young women.
And you think about it, Rob, your physiology, your body is going through a roller coaster of experiences, and the amount of lactic acid being generated on that big upslope on the roof, and you've got to deal with that 3 times. First lap, you've got to deal with it, and then you've got 2 laps ahead of you. Second lap, you're coming towards the end of your race. You've got another hard lap ahead of you. You sprint the last half mile or so, and then you get hit with a big surge of lactic in the last few hundred meters. No wonder they're in a bad way. A brilliant effort by every one of them for me.
A really tough course. They're really tired.
We are seeing the evidence here of just why this is being regarded as the the hardest course we have ever seen. All credit to all of these young women for making it to the finish.
So they're really hurting in the finish funnel there. But
Richardson of New Zealand coming home there. She's the national youth champion, or was, over 3,000 metres.
I think all 4 of you girls. Like
Taryn O'Neill of Canada just on the right of picture there, 10th in the World Juniors. Over 3,000 metres last year.
I tried to be there and I just fell off.
Just looking down, we had a couple of Japanese athletes, 14th and 15th, Kasama Hironaka. Kirsty Ray ran well, she was 17th for New Zealand. And Nadia Batocleti, she looks to me to have been the leading European. She was 23rd, and I think she was leading European 2 years ago in the World Cross.
Hi, I'm down here in the finish area, and I just found an interesting little guy here.
Now, we were
This is the Norwegian flag.
initially celebrating, or certainly waxing lyrical about Alemitu Tariku and Gebreselama, but when I looked at that replay, it did appear to me as though Beatrice Chebet had brushed the finishing tape before the other 2 athletes. She's being given a time that's a second behind Tariku and Gebreselama. We're still waiting to see whether that will be confirmed. An incredibly tight finish. Spaniards having a little team chat at the end of that one. A nice photo, and hopefully they'll use this as a springboard as they move towards their lives as under 23 and then senior athletes. What a race. Well, there's Chebet. I still don't think she believes that she's being given the right medal at the moment. Watch for Tariku coming on the right-hand side, and watch who brushes the tape first. It is definitely the Kenyan. Chelangat just off the podium, having led for so much of the race, but the Ethiopian delegation certainly believe it's gold and silver. Those are the 3 medalists. Of that we're certain. A very, very tight race. We have been looking forward to this great day of cross-country for the last month or so, and so far it has not disappointed. We've still got the junior men, senior women and senior men to come. Our first 2 races have been fascinating.
So even though you were out on the course, wherever you were, have a look at the giant screen and we'll see the highlights.